Welcome to part 3 of the restoration of this STC 548 radio. Last week I changed the capacitors, did a restring and an alignment. This week with the chassis finished, I'm going to tackle the cabinet and try and make a new dial lens. I thought I'd have a look at this case. It's got an unusual speaker that it's wrapped around, or the cloth is. Now inside there's a couple of screws up there. We can take that out and that'll take that front plate off, I guess. Now on the side they've just tacked it in with some staples. They've also stapled a bit of wood on there to pick up that centre bar that's on the outside there. This one. Need to be careful because it might damage this. So I'll just take the screw out. I guess that'll just come out. Okay, so far so good. I can see now they've just tacked that on with staples. So I'll just get them out. There might be more staples in there, I can't see. There's one. Alright, so that's loose there. So I've just got some staples around the side here where it wraps around the side of the case. More staples. Alright. There it is. So that's an interesting way of doing it. They've glued it onto some flywire screen and then bent it around, so that's not a bad option, is it? I like that. Now it is the original colour, nice and light with some red highlights through it, and it's got nothing like that there. It's in good condition, but I don't know that it's ever going to come back to that again. I'll see what I can do, try and wash it perhaps, see if it'll come up. Now the other thing I've got to take out is this Perspex cover, and I'm going to have to try and remake that. I haven't worked out how I'm going to do that yet. Once again, it's just got the staples in there. Looks like they've glued it on as well, so there we go. Extremely yellow, of course. I've never tried to make a shape like that. It's going to be interesting to see how I'm going to do it. I'll think of something. Now I've got to work out how to fix this join here where it's pulled apart. Looks like this cleat here has let go that way, vertical plane, and there's another one in there that's let go on the top. So let's try and I'll see if I can clean out in there. So maybe if this will clamp down, I can just re-clamp it and re-glue it with some very strong adhesive I've got here. Cleaned out behind there. See if I can get this cleat out of the way, whether it'll give easily. There it goes. Alright, we can see in the join there now. That's good. But I just want to see if that'll pull in or not. Just about, won't it? Now that'll be good enough because this area here is going to be black, so I can just backfill that. What I need to do now is clean out the surface in there. That'll have dirt and dust on it that will inhibit the adhesive sticking to it. So I'll do that. I've made another cleat up, and it's going to pick up some of the existing cleat that's in there, or a doubler, whatever you want to call it, and that'll cover that, so it'll give a bit more strength back into it. That's the other side of the top, and it's doing the same thing. It's kind of starting to come away. I think it's pulled away from this cleat here, so I've made up another cleat. I'm going to remove that one and clean it all up, and I'll glue this back in as well. Alright, I've got the adhesive here, and I'm just going to put it down the slot there. Now this isn't the adhesive I wanted to use. I couldn't get the one I wanted. They tell me this is really strong. This looks like PVA to me, but I'll see if I can get some in here. I'm confident that's gone right into that joint. That's good. Now this one's not so much of an issue, but I'll get some in there if I can. Yeah, not sure we're going to get into there. I'll just put a bit in here. This is the other end. I did clean it as much as I could. As I said, it's not open that much, so I'm going to have to rely on the cleat to hold this one together. So this is the worst end. So that's come out good. This is the other end with the only minor splitting, so I'll just clamp that up as well. It's pushing a bit of glue out, so it must have got something there. I'll just wipe off the excess adhesive there. I just want to put a clamp across the sides here to pull that in. So that should pull in. So just got to put the little cleat in there. I'll just lightly clamp that. There we go. I'll just do the same at the other end. There you go. So just leave that for 24 hours and I'll pull it apart and hopefully the joins will look pretty good. So this has been sitting here for nearly a day and a half now, so I'm going to take the clamps off. We'll see how it comes out. That's one end. It hasn't closed up as much as it could have done, but it won't matter. That's, as I say, that's painted, so a bit of filler in there and you won't see that. And this is the other end and it's much the same. Still got a little bit of a gap there. A bit disappointing, but I think it'll be okay, and at least it's stable now with the reinforcing in the corners. Next thing I'm going to do is strip off this old lacquer and bring it back to timber. Right, I'm going to paint strip this now and bring it back to timber, I hope. Now I've got a new stripper. It's called Smart Strip. Never used it before, never seen it before. It's supposed to be eco-friendly, and you spray on and give it a dwell time and it should scrape off. It says should take off multiple layers at once. So the average dwell time is between 1 and 6 hours. Good Lord. Leave the stripper overnight. Oh God. So we'll see how we go. I've got gloves on and a mask. We'll see how this goes. Oh. I wasn't expecting that. Well, that's it. I'll let it sit for a couple of hours. I might go and mow the lawn, come back and we'll see what it looks like underneath. It's been about 2 hours since I put this on. I had a bit of lunch and went and mowed the lawn, and it's 35 degrees today and about 70-80% humidity, so good fun mowing the lawns. I'm going to try and scrape this off. I've tried a bit up in the corner there. It seems to be coming up. Someone put in the comments that they use sawdust. I think they were using the sawdust that you put in the bottom of hamster cages or guinea pig cages, I guess. Now, I've got plenty of sawdust, so just try it. I've got the air conditioner on, so hang on. I'll just get the fan off that. Hang on. Alright, I had the air conditioner on, it was just blowing it everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. This is really not the right sort of sawdust if I was going to try doing this. That didn't work. I think you need the coarser type of sawdust to try that. So I'll go back to my original idea, which was to just use a scraper. That's coming up alright. I'll just do it a bit longer and then I'll come back. I'll scrape most of this off. I'm just removing the rest with a damp cloth, and I'll have to get in the grooves with a brush, I think, wet brush. But it's coming off alright. It's not bad actually. Well, there it is. It's still wet and there's still bits of paint and whatever in the corners, so I'm going to have to go around and finish all that up, but I'm going to let it dry first, and once it's dried out I can do some minor sandpapering and repairing some of the dents. There was one around here somewhere. So I'll fix that. It's almost gone now. And there's a crack across there. I'll have to see what I can do with that. That's filled up with paint and stripper now, so I'll have to try and clean that out so I can get some filler in there or something. I'll try and get that rubbish out of the crack in the top here. So I'll just wet it with a bit of turpentine. I started to sand this top off and I noticed it's still got remnants of the old lacquer in there somewhere, so I've just hit it again with some traditional paint stripper and we'll see how that goes. It's made no difference, the marks are still there, so I guess they're intrinsic in the timber, so I'll have to live with that. That's got some walnut wood grain filler here, so I'll just try and get that in there. Now, while I'm here, I'll just fill this repair I did in the corner. This bit will be painted brown, so it doesn't matter what colour the filler is. And here's the other end. Just do that one as well. Let's see how this comes up. Alright, that'll do. I'm not sure what to do with this top because it's got those dark parts in it. I've put this is a bit of terps just to see what it's going to look like with some clear over the top, and the colour's good, but the dark bits still stand out. I was going to stain this in walnut. This is a lighter timber than that. I'm wondering if I should put some walnut stain on these parts as well, just to try and blend that in a little bit. I think I'll let that dry out and I'll just stain that whole part on the top there as walnut. And I think the front I'll just leave its natural colour. It's got some contrast there and some different grains. So I'll leave that natural and just put some clear coat over that. Alright, there's some walnut stain. I'll just rub that in. I'm just cleaning off the excess with a clean rag. That's kind of blended it in a bit, so I think that's about all I can hope for. The colour will look good when it's done. I'm going to let this stain dry here, and I might give it another coat to darken it up a bit more. Alright, bit of a change of plan. I've decided I will stain this. This has got a bit of a grey look about it, so I don't want that to come through. So I'm going to very lightly stain it with the walnut, same as the top. And that also will hide a couple of imperfections in the timber. It's got the same sort of staining in some areas, so I'll just do that very quickly. I just hope it doesn't make the radio look too dark. Once again, I'll just rub this off before it dries too much. Alright, now let's see if it's gone through onto the lighter colour timber. No. Perfect. Perfect. Excellent. I'm going to apply a grain filler to the timber here. Now, I've used grain fillers before with absolutely no success, but I've decided I'll give it a go again. This one's called Aquacoat. It's a clear wood grain filler, so you can stain it, apply this, and then it is dries crystal clear. Now, I tried a different way to do it the last few times and it didn't really work. You can add colour to it. And I think that's where I went wrong. So I'm going to give it another go. You can just apply this with a cloth as I'm doing. Let it dry for nearly an hour or so and sand it off, and it should be flat like glass and crystal clear. And it says to apply it with the cloth and then rub it off with a scraper. I'm going to attempt to do this centre part. I'll just polish this on because I'll never get in there to rub it out. The instructions say leave that for 35 minutes, then sand it off with some 320 grit paper. So we'll see what happens. That's been a good 40 minutes odd. Just lightly sand it off. I'll see what it looks like. Oh, it's hard. I think I remember that's what happened last time. I sanded it, it's like glass, I gotta say, but it's taken the dye out as well by the look of it, I think. Let's see what happens if I restain it. It's pretty good actually. Well, it's come up really well. It's very smooth. I've got a glove on. It's very smooth. More so, I'm just feeling the front there. That's not as smooth as this is. Now this centre bit where I wiped it on and sort of polished it on, it's actually come up pretty good. I'm not going to touch that. That's come up well. So maybe that's what I should be doing all over it. I'm going to try this end, and I'm going to rub it on like a car wax and just try and polish it on and not leave a film on it. Now we'll see how that comes up. I think I'd at least have to run over it with some very fine steel wool just to get it smooth. Alright, I'll let that dry for half an hour or so. I've got some ultra fine steel wool here. I'm just going to rub the timber off. And that feels really good. But of course it's the little pores we're trying to fill up, not the general piece of timber. I'll just do the same to this bit. Once again, that looks very good. I'm just doing the centre bit. This has only been wiped on with the cloth, the grain filler. So I'll just see how it comes up. And it looks good. That looks really good. I've got some 800 grit wet and dry paper here. I'm just using it dry. I've ended up back with the 320 paper. I don't think I was cutting through the filler back to the timber, so I've sanded it back. So I just wipe it off. I've got to tape up that light veneer again, and then I'll just put a bit more stain over the top. Alright, I've wiped all this down and put some more tape on, so I'm just going to restain it. I'll just follow the same procedure I did on the top, and I can feel that timber is very, very smooth under there. Now whether it's filled up the little grains is another thing, I don't know. Now I'm not an expert cabinet maker, I don't pretend to be. Like everything I do with radios, I pretty much make it up as I go along, so if you follow what I'm doing, it's at your own risk. I've finished staining that. I'm going to let it dry for half an hour or so. I'll come back and use the steel wool on it, and then I can start masking off, and I'll prep up these areas here where it's going to be painted. I think it was brown, so I'll probably redo that in brown. The next step is to paint these brown. This timber here was all brown originally, so I'll do that again. So it's the same old thing, just mask off the bits we want to keep. It's all masked off, ready for undercoat. I'm going to use a high build primer, and I can smooth that off quite well. Well, there's a problem already. I've filled that crack. Well, there's a couple of cracks have shown through already. I've filled them with wood filler, but obviously it doesn't fill it well enough. Alright, I'll fix those up. I've repaired those cracks and given it another coat. That needs to be smoothed off, and I'll give it another coat. There were still a couple of areas that needed a bit more work, so I've filled them again. This is an automotive high build primer, so it's good for getting out little imperfections. You can just sand them out and you get a really good finish. I've sanded back the primer. I've taken the masking off and sanded away, and then put the masking back on so I don't get a line from the primer underneath the brown. I just got to leave that for an hour, and then I'll give it another coat, but it's covered very well, so 2 coats will be plenty. This is the colour the brown paint's come out, and I don't like it. It's too red, too milky looking. I want a darker colour than that, seeing I've stained the timber as well. It's really not dark enough for it. I'm going to sand the brown off and remask it and respray it and see how that comes up. Well, it's all prepped up, ready to go. With this new spray, we'll see what this looks like. Gosh, it doesn't look much different. It just looks like a giant chocolate Easter egg now. Oh well, we'll have to see what it looks like when it dries. After several days of repairs and painting and changing my mind and changing the colour, I'm ready to put the top coat of clear on it, and I'm going to do that now. I've rubbed back the brown paint with very fine steel wool to take the gloss off. I've also gone around and removed any residue from the masking tape where I've put masking tape directly onto the wood. I'm going to use my spray gun to put the top coat on. It's a clear lacquer. It's 60% gloss. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take the camera out and give it a spray, and we'll come back and have a look. I've put a coat of clear lacquer on, and unfortunately the brown has reacted with the lacquer and gone into a wrinkle finish. So it looks pretty good if you wanted wrinkle finish, but it's not where I want it. So I'm going to have to get the brown off. I don't know if I can just sand it off, or I might have to strip the whole thing down. I can't use that brown again, so I'm going to have to go black, which I was trying to avoid. The original radio was brown, and I was trying to stick to that. I'll come back in a minute and tell you how it all worked out. Just to give you an update, it's about 4 hours since I wrinkled the paint. So I've paint stripped the case again. I'm just going to undercoat this again, smooth it all out, and I'm going to paint it black. So I'll return very shortly. Welcome back. Well, I finally got there. It took a few days to do this. The humidity here was playing havoc trying to spray from the spray gun. So there's a few spots of water, I had to sand that back, and yeah. So it's just been going on. Anyway, we got there eventually. But the finish is good. It's come up very nice, actually. A bit sad about the black. I would have preferred the brown, but the brown wasn't going to happen, so the black looks good. The time's come. I've got to make a new lens to fit over the dial on the radio. Now this is the old one, quite yellow. Now I've got some new Perspex here. The old Perspex is 0.9mm thick. This is 1mm thick, so it's 0.1 thicker. Not a great deal of difference. This is a bit of an experiment more than anything. I've made a mould here where this will fit on it, and I've got the reverse part of it here, and that should snap over there like that and sandwich it in. I've cut a bit of Perspex to suit. It's bigger than I need. I've put that on top of that mould. I'm going to put that in the oven. As it melts, I'm just going to put that on top and push it down, and hopefully it'll flatten off. Now, what effect I'm going to get, whether it's going to damage it, bend it, I don't know if it's going to put marks in it. That's what I'm experimenting with. So I'm going to adjourn to the oven and we'll see how we go with this. Okay, let's have a go at this. I would say by the pressure I'm putting on that, that's not going to work. We got partway there. It's made the curve, just not enough. So I reckon I'll put it back. I'll get it a bit hotter than that. I'm wondering if I should just have that on there. So I might put it back like that and leave it for a bit longer. Right, this time I've got a bit of angle iron here. It's probably, I don't know, 1.5 inch angle iron. Pretty heavy. I'm going to put the acrylic and the mould under here and just use this as a bit of a weight. I couldn't get enough weight on it before. Alright, that's had time to cool. We'll have a look. Well, it's made a shape. You can see it. There you go. Not bad. I'll see how it looks in the radio. Well, there's the original and there's the new one. I'm not going to say they're identical, but they're not bad. Not bad at all. Let's have a look. There you go. You probably can't see it so well there, but I'll tell you what, that looks really good. That is very good. I could probably improve next time. I maybe make the mould a bit sharper perhaps. I had this running eventually about 180 degrees on fan force, maybe 175 on fan force, and it was in there for 10 minutes. And I did put a lot of pressure on that to get it to bend down and it didn't want to go. But I'm very happy with that. Very happy. I'm going to attempt to refit the grill. Now the old cloth that was on there, I couldn't save it. It was way too far gone. It just fell to pieces. So I've got this one. It's the best I've got. The wife and I spent ages in fabric shops looking for stuff. There's just nothing around that even looks close to what it did back in the 40s. Buying grill cloth from overseas is ridiculously expensive. It's usually about $60 in postage plus the cloth. So, you know, it's out of the question. So that's the best one I've got. It doesn't look too bad. Now this one's got straight lines, so I've got to make sure the lines line up with the timber. So I've taped that in there with some masking tape to hold it in the right place, hopefully. I've got some high density cardboard that I've glued two pieces together to make the right thickness. Now I'm hoping the staples won't go through because that's only a very thin bit of ply. The problem I have is the stapler doesn't actually fit inside the cabinet. I don't know, we'll see how we go. It's not going to work very well. If the video goes blank, you'll know that I've gone right through the cabinet. Just kidding, that didn't go through. In fact, it didn't even go through my little doublers there and the wire, so I didn't think the wire was going to take up that much room. So I've made some single ones. I haven't glued them together, and we'll try that out. No damage. I'll stick another one in here. No damage. Okay, I can breathe again. I don't know if I mentioned, I've put this white masking tape in here to outline where the timber stops, so if the staple goes into that area, then I'm in the wire. I'm not into the timber. I'm going to try and put one in the top here. I'm going to have to angle my stapler to get it in. So far so good. Well, that's come up really good. I haven't gone through anywhere, so I've just got to go around the corner here, do it around the side, and that's the end of that. One of the remaining tasks is to glue the lens back in. It was originally stapled, but there's no way I can staple this stuff. It will shatter if I try doing that. So I'm going to use a silicone sealant to just hold it in. The surface it glues to is pretty rough. I think that'll be the best for filling the gaps and hold it. If I use a hard adhesive, it's likely to just crack away over time. So I'll do that now. Alright, that's gone in quite well. I'll let that dry. It'll take a couple of hours and I can put the radio in. Just before I pop this back in the cabinet, I'd read a couple of silicon chip articles about these radios and specifically this circuit here. And they gave a vague description of what this adjustable resistor on the back of the chassis was for. This resistor adjusts the bias on the two cathodes here so you can increase, decrease the gain of these two valves. The AGC comes along here and goes to the two grids of these two valves. The article said, and it says they tried it, if you have a weak station you can adjust this to bring it in a bit better, and the stronger stations will still be affected by the AGC and they'll knock them off. So you're altering the signal strength between the weaker stations and the stronger stations, and that pretty much was what it said. In part 2 I elected to leave the 350 volt electrolytics in here. It played on my mind too much, so I eventually changed them and upped them to 600 volts. I'm confident if I'd left the 350 volt ones in there, that would have been fine, but if it helps me sleep, I'll change them to 600. Alright, let's put this in the case. I've put the speaker baffle board back in. I had to route out a little groove there to fit the new, more bulbous suspension on the speaker. So the first thing I'll do is put the speaker in. Okay, I'm ready to put it in. I've just got to angle it slightly to get this dial structure past the case. It's got it, I think. I'll just hang the radio over the edge of the desk so I can put these screws in while the chassis is nice and straight inside the case. That's come up well. The shafts are in the middle of the cutout, so that's a bonus. It's got some felts to put on. And I've polished the knobs up with some Brasso. I cleaned them first. I've just got to fit the little aerial wire bracket. And I made up a new aerial wire and terminal here. Okay, done.
Which means I'm out of the group. That's all right. I'll just be in
You do have the last name,
Livingston, yes.
It's all done. It's looking really good. Very happy with the finish on the cabinet. I'm getting much better at that, so the next one's going to be better again. The dial glass is superb. It's come out so much better than I ever thought I'd get, so I can only get better at doing that. Despite what I did to the speaker, it sounds terrific. It's in the case, it sounds great. It's very nice and mellow, deep, very good bass on it. It's very lucky to survive what I did to it, but it's come up all right. It sounds good. You'd hardly know that I'd done so much damage to it. Somebody pointed out there's a spelling error on the sticker here. It's got inless instead of unless, but I'm not taking the sticker off because it'll probably damage the paint if I do so. I'll just live with that. Generally it looks good, and I think it's pretty close to what it was when they were built, colour-wise, so I'm happy with that. Here's a bit of fun. I've transported my radio back to the 40s, and this family is listening to it. Somebody requested to see the dial with the lights dim, so I'll do that now. It looks really good here. I don't know how it's going to come out on screen, but looks really nice. The colours are terrific, and it's in first class condition. There's not a mark on it. There's nothing wrong with it. This is a model 548 from STC in 1946. It's a pre-war radio, released post-war, and it's looking a little bit better than when I got it. That's it for part 3 on this radio. I'll be back with my next project shortly. I hope you enjoyed this radio. I enjoyed doing it, and it's come up nice. So on the shelf with this one. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me for my next radio adventure.
You had 5 kids and no pigs, eh?
And we got 3 more.
3 pigs?
3 more kids.
You now have 8 kids?
Yeah, 8 kids.
And where is your husband? Is he in the audience?
No, this died 3 years ago. I know though.
How do you know he died? Maybe he's just hiding.
No.